Thank you again for watching. This is the Ellipsis show, and I'm grateful to have you tuning in. Today's interview on the show is Roger Gorius, and I'm excited to share this with you. He's the city administrator for the city of Tomah, and we originally met when I was a news anchor at the Tomah TV station, and so we maintained contact with each other, and I've been looking forward to having him on on my podcast or my little show, and he actually is going to be the first interview on the new platform that I'm presenting. So let me take a few seconds to make these couple of announcements, and then we'll get right into the interview with Roger Gorius. Guess what, you all? TomahRadio.com is now here. If you type into your web browser, TomahRadio.com, you will find that I finally have a home for my radio shows and all the little projects that I've been working on. If you are in Tomah, if you're from Tomah, Wisconsin, okay, this is you officially have a new outlet, a new radio outlet, okay? I'm going to publish some more content about TomahRadio.com, but I wanted you to just know that TomahRadio.com is now here. Based out of Tomah. We're going to talk about Tomah. We're going to enjoy Tomah. Enjoy being in Tomah. So, TomahRadio.com. That's all I can say right now because, I want to hurry up and get into the interview. Now, nothing has changed regarding the Ellipsis show. You can still find us at m3dots.com. So, all my old episodes and the new episodes, you'll be able to find them somewhere on m3dots.com. I have a lot of stuff up there, so you just have to kind of go to the website and browse around and find what you can find. Enjoy it. We are on YouTube. The Ellipsis show. The way you can find us on YouTube is you just go to the search bar and just type in the Ellipsis show, and a lot of stuff will come up. All right. For this particular interview, if you typed in Ellipsis and then Roger Gorius, you'd find it, but you're already here. So now, the final thing that I'll discuss before I get into the interview is that I am on Facebook, and I am accepting your Facebook friendships. Okay. I am using Facebook as the way to distribute my content. So when people ask me, how many people am I able to reach? The first number that I want to grab is my Facebook friends, because those people, if you're my Facebook friend, you have access to the content that I put out first. You can go to m3dots.com and you can check it out, and I got my statistics to keep track of that. And with YouTube, you can't always know who and why people found you on YouTube. But with Facebook, it's a very, 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 it's an intimate setting where you know exactly who watched and for how long, and you can carry on some good relationships and some good friendships with Facebook. So more to follow regarding my Facebook friends. I have good content for you all. So if you send your friend request to Matt Ellipsis, I am going to check you out before I accept you. Before I accept your friendship, as you should. If I send you a friend request, you should check me out before you accept my friendship. So I look forward to serving you from all of my platforms, from the m3dots.com website, the Tomah radio.com website, as well as any of the places where you can find my content. I'm looking forward to serving you. And so thank you for, the time that you're granting me by watching this interview and availing yourself of my content. Thank you. So now, without further delay, my interview with Roger Gorius.
Actually, that building came out very nice.
You talking about Murray's on Main?
Yeah.
I think it did too. It looks really good.
Yeah, considering 3 years ago I was watching them tear down.
Yeah, that teepee, right?
Yeah.
So what was the teepee anyway? Like,
TP was a supper club.
It was kind of the same thing.
It used to belong to Ed Thompson,
Yeah.
who was the brother of Tommy Thompson, who was the governor.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh.
And when Ed had it, and Tina Thompson, who's our chamber director.
No, she's related.
She is the daughter-in-law of Ed.
Oh my
She's
God.
married Ed's son.
Oh my God.
But
So
in its day when Ed had it, it was a really great place.
Really?
The last owner kind of let it fall into decay, and it went back to the bank, and we watched it just kind of crumble down around its ears. And
we're talking about you're talking about when you say you're talking about it went down. You're talking about the financial solvency, so to speak, of the business.
He let it go back to the bank. We had our CDBG housing, our community development block grant had loaned him some money too.
Okay.
For business, and unfortunately it didn't work, and it sat empty. Some pipes were broken. There was some damage done. It was just going into disrepair. And one day, Jay Gerke, who's the son of Gerke Excavating, came in and he says, "I got an idea." He says, "I'm tired of seeing it fall down around its ears, and we're worried about it. We want to buy it, and we want to build a building." And that's where it started, and a lot of work. I applied for and received a $250,000 brownfield grant from the state. At that time, Lieutenant Governor Clayfish came down and presented the award. We all sat over in that empty lot over there with all the building material behind us, and just over a 2-year period, we watched it go up. Mike Murray, our current mayor, was interested in opening a restaurant, had been looking at numerous different places, looking possible to purchase existing. He worked into a deal with it to open up Murray's on Main, which has been a real nice addition to downtown. So we're just slowly but surely. We started TID 8, which is a tax incremental district, down through the downtown corridor 5.5 years ago. And the idea behind that was to renovate the downtown. Not to change it, not to do anything, but to offer small improvements like the street lights.
Right.
Be able
the
to
bathroom, the
bathroom. Be able to help out people like Gerke's that want to go in. I mean, they've got tax incrementals incentive. We've got money put away for people who want to do fascia improvement, maybe change windows around and stuff like that. So I'll kind of work that through. Well, then meanwhile, I was contacted by Toro.
Oh, yeah.
And they asked that I keep it confidential. And that's a little hard when you're...
Meaning confidential, meaning at that time.
At that time.
At that particular time, right.
Because they were looking at different sites throughout their company dynamics, and they were looking to do a pretty major project somewhere. And it landed here with the paint facility, which is phenomenal.
Right.
And there's a backstory to that, too. We had started working with Toro probably about, it's got to be a good 6 years ago now. we were having problems when they were flushing on their paint. They'd get a lot of phosphorus, and we'd get it into our wastewater system, and it would spike our things, and it was starting to affect that. So we understood that they didn't know what was going on, and we weren't communicating with them properly. So we started talking.
Right.
And things turned around dramatically. And even before this came online, they had done a remarkable job at reducing their phosphorus output. That I can't say enough at how great they were to work with. They were just stellar. And we got it all around. We've not really had any spikes, and since the new plant's come on, I mean, it's like non-existent. That thing is like majorly futuristic. It is just incredible, the technology they put into it. So that went on. So what we did there is we opened TID 9. Because they did have some things that they needed done, some infrastructure work around the area, drainage ponds, things like that.
Now, when you say the Texas Incremental District 9, are you saying Phase 9 after Phase 8, or when you say 9?
We had 7 before I came here.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Each one had a number, and seven was to build the Walmart.
Oh, so it's almost like a list of objectives,
right?
So to speak. I got you.
Well, so it's its own entity. Okay.
Yeah.
The way a tax incremental district works is you block off a section.
Okay.
You talk to all the taxing entities. So that's us, the school, the county, the technical college, and you say, look, we want to just basically put this area in a bubble, so that none of that increment, any increase in increment that comes on in here doesn't go anywhere but to the city.
Oh.
It doesn't go out to the taxing. The taxing entities still get the money that they originally get, the original tax, but they don't get the increased increment.
Gotcha.
We can take that increased increment, do things like help Toro, help Gerke increase that. And then when that's released, all of a sudden they've got more tax increment, and that goes out to them. Well, we started up number 9, and then Phil Stewart came to me about, well, that's got to be 5 years ago now too, and said, hey, we're going to build a new hospital. But you got to keep that quiet too. so we did. But the reason he wanted us to know right off the bat was we weren't sure what their needs were going to be on that side of the town.
Right.
We've got 1 million gallons of water sitting up in the hills, so we weren't worried about supplying water to them, and we have a strong well system out there. But what did become was septic wastewater.
Right.
So we had to go across country. We had to get some easements from the Baileys, who own property out there. We went out there and we figured, well, if we're going to go out here anyway, we're going to just oversize it, because we might put a subdivision out here someday. The hospital could easily support that kind of growth.
Right.
And we do have a housing shortage. I'm sure you found that out.
A little bit. You know what? I thought that there was an abundance of places for people to live, because I remember going over to the Remax, or the place where the real estate office, and just seeing a bunch of stickers up there letting them know that there's a whole bunch of places. But and plus we just moved to Tomah probably maybe 4 years ago, and where we live at, we weren't thinking about buying, but it was easy. My wife did all the work, so I didn't really see a shortage. But are you saying that Tomah has a housing shortage?
We do. Single family homes, they're going up like crazy out in my subdivision, which is the Sunny Hills out there. It'll be full next year.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're going to have to look at possibly somebody's going to have to look at investing in starting another subdivision.
Wow.
It's just, we get the overflow from the fort, not quite as much as Sparta does, but we get quite a bit of overflow from the fort. We have a lot of, with the business, Toro expanding and bringing more people in, with the hospital and Gunderson Clinic. And Gunderson Clinic going online as an oncology clinic, more doctors, more families, more houses. So it's good, and growth is fine, but you've got to stay with it, and you've got to keep ahead.
Yeah, you got to be. So does that mean that eventually Tomah gets bigger geographically, like the move and take over Angelo, take over?
Well, I don't think we'll quite get the answer, but we have annexed some property, and if you go out where Millhaven is behind Moulter's Fresh Foods, that was that whole what was that, 57 acres we brought into this. We annexed that in, include that in the TID. Well, because Millhaven came to us and they said, we'd really like to build, but we need a place, and what can you do for us? And again, this is where we could offer a tax incentive and say, okay. And people think, well, gosh, you're giving these people all this money, but you have to remember, what you pay these people, you're going to realize 3 to 4 times back in a very short period. I mean, in the Millhaven situation, the builder's agreement's already paid for, and we're already taking tax increment that's pure profit for the city to be able to do more projects and expand. And it's not that we want to, and that helps drive the tax rate down. I mean, we're going to put the tax levy in place on the 12th. The council, we had the budget meeting, the council approved it, and they're going to finalize it and approve it on the 12th, and it lowers taxes actually.
Wow.
So, you know, still by providing services, we have a robust ambulance service. I mean, it's got a very good surplus in fundage. We're looking for locations right now to build a new ambulance fire station because
have they outgrown the location? That
they are actually the ambulance by far has because a few years back the state decided that nurses wouldn't ride ambulances. Everybody was going to have to go to full-time paramedics. Ooh. So when we went to full-time paramedics, we went to a 24/7, and that's no longer sleep at your house and go get the ambulance and make the run. It's full-time. So we need housing for them. We need, you know, suitable quarters with acceptable facilities for bathing and just basically sleeping and living and eating. So yeah, we needed a new place like that. Well, meanwhile, you know, Chief Adler, our fire chief, and I have been talking. These buildings are going up, and these buildings are getting taller. So we need equipment that can reach them. So now we need bigger trucks. We need bigger equipment. Our command vehicle out here, the Ho-Chunk, were very generous and gave us $80,000 towards buying a command vehicle a few years back. On a snowy day, we have to shovel in front of the door because it only clears by about that much when you back it in there. So we need we're using facilities built for 60s and 70s equipment to house equipment that's and the equipment itself is smarter. I mean, we have onboard air stations, we have onboard computer systems, GPS, you know, mapping systems that can all tie in, you know, so when our guys go on a call, they can lay the grid out. Okay, here's the gas lines, here's the water lines, here's the electrical lines. We know what we're fighting ahead of time before we get in there. We're working smarter than we are harder. And that's just increases the safety for our guys.
So are you so 7 years ago and some change, your 8th anniversary is coming up how soon?
I start my 8th year on April 15th.
April 15th. So when you got into this, I'm assuming you were aware of what the challenges were and what it means to administrate a city.
Oh yeah. Well, I knew Tomah fairly well. I'm a veteran, and I'm also a disabled veteran. So I come up to Tomah VA, and I have been doing that for a long time. So I knew the city.
I got you.
I knew the outlet. I didn't know the intricacies of what they were facing inside, and these are not challenges that are insurmountable by any means. They just take some very creative thought and some very careful planning and a lot of cooperation, and a lot of work from a lot of people. But I've got great department heads. They're all very good at their job. We've even snagged a few people from the private sector and brought them over. That's really helped quite a bit. My director of public works, Kirk Garrity, worked for Gerke. He probably knows more about what's underneath the ground in this city than most people do. That sounds silly, but
but that's very important.
Well, it is when you've got 109 miles worth of roads and all of that's got piping and what's underneath it.
Wait, did you say 109 miles?
Yeah.
Meaning altogether, if you took the whole city or town of Tomah.
We're city.
So the city of Tomah, if you were to turn it into what is it, 2 lanes on either side and stretch it out,
it'd be about 109 miles, a little short. And that's an important distinction.
Yes,
because
the distinction of city and town.
Yeah, Wisconsin works on a city, village, and township system, and each one is regulated differently through ordinances, through statutes in the state. Each one has different regulatory requirements as far as what they can put up for buildings, what they can do, how they're zoned. And Tomah is just right now at about, I'd say we're probably going to peak out of, if I had to guess on the census, I'd say about 9,700.
Oh, but, really? Okay, gotcha. We're not at 10,000 people.
I hope not.
Because what does that mean? Does that mean we need to take Oakdale and move them out of the way and say, come on, we're taking you to...
What it means is our designations as a city would change and certain rules would apply to us that don't apply to us now. How we work with retainage of water, how we work with sidewalks, curbing, gutter, things like that. These all change as we get to the next phase.
You know what I just thought about? So this is really, we don't want to get to 10,000.
Not quite yet.
We don't want to get to 10,000. So the phrase, this town is not big enough for for us, is a real phrase.
I would take 9,999 and then give me that 10 years to go ahead and expand the city, and then let's go to 10,000.
Right.
We'll be roaring and ready to go
Right.
then.
So if a city gets to 10,000, that it still is a city.
Yeah, its designation just changes.
Its designation just changes.
As far as how it's handled by the state.
Right, I
what
got you.
regulations, what ordinances, it more statutes than ordinances.
Man, Tomah so far has been a really nice place to be.
It's a very friendly town.
It's a very friendly town, and you know, let me see. The last election, I voted here.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm, you know, from Chicago, you know, being, you know, a military person, I voted by absentee ballot.
Okay. Where do you live at, can I ask?
Yeah, I live over in the former 80 something
801
housing. Yeah,
housing?
you know, whatever. I guess now that's it's not military housing anymore. I guess it was.
Yeah, it was.
It was.
So Alderwoman Kaminsky is your alderperson.
I gotta write that down. Alderwoman Kaminsky. So I have to one day meet her because this is. It's a fascinating scenario, you know.
Well, she's a nice lady.
Yeah, so like you know, so the question I have for you in terms of like, you know, this past 8 years of you doing this, first you commuted to come to the VA.
Yeah, I live down in Prairie du Chien.
And then your wife, did she get a job there at the VA or just
When we moved here, she did.
Okay, when you guys moved here. So you were doing this and then she was doing that.
Yeah, I got here in, we came here, the way it all started out was we were going on vacation to Costa Rica. We'd saved up quite a while and two friends of ours going for 2 weeks down there. And I applied for the job, and they wanted me to interview the day we were flying out.
Darn it!
So I called up and I explained it to them, and they were very gracious about it. They said, well, can you come up on a Wednesday evening? And they made time and they got together and they did that. So we came up here in probably one of the worst snowstorms we had that year. And we got, the letter had said, and this always surprised me too, the letter that I got was the same one that everybody else got. There were 76 applicants and they took 6 finalists. And
did you say 76?
76 people applied for the position, yeah.
Wow.
And 6 applicants were chosen for finalists to get interviews. And they sent us a letter and they said, if you'd like, come up early and you can tour the departments in the cities and go to different. I thought, well, that's great. So I came up and I walked in the door, and the first person I met, you met earlier, was Joe Cram, our city clerk. And you can't say enough about Joanne. She's an absolutely outstanding clerk. But I said, hi. I said, my name's Roger Gorius. I said, I'm here to interview tomorrow night. And I said, your letter said I could come up. And she goes, you know, you're the only person that took us up on that.
Look at that.
She goes, I was really surprised by that. And she didn't tell me right off the bat. She told me after I had interviewed that, you know, nobody else even bothered. And I thought, you're going to come into a situation and you want to run this city. Don't you at least want to see what it's about? What,
exactly.
You know, what do they got, you know?
Exactly.
You know, and I was very pleasantly surprised. I mean, I know it sounds silly to brag about something like this, but our wastewater treatment plant, 2 years after I got here, was chosen as the most efficient one in the state. And I mean, we're beating out Sheboygan, we're beating out Green Bay, we're beating out the big
deal.
hitters.
That is a big deal.
So,
no, I get it. I get the bragging about it, because you're saying that this place is being run efficiently. Somehow, there are people who are putting their job. That's what they're doing every day. Is to.
Well, at that time, Bass Pierce was running the wastewater treatment facility. Now it's Brandy Lee's. Brandy is excellent at his job, very good. Probably one of our better department heads as far as skill and knowledge. What he does. I mean, there's no best department head. They're all great at what they do. I mean, you look at what Joe Protz does for Parks and Rec. You look at our fire chief. You look at our police department. You look at just, you know, it's easy to say that Tomah's is running well, because it is, and it's because a lot of people are very committed to what they do. And I'm just very fortunate to get to work with a lot of them. You know?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Wow. And so this whole idea of running a city, it requires a mayor. Every city requires a mayor, right?
It does or it doesn't.
Okay.
There are cities that most cities do have a mayor, but when the administrated city came about, a lot of them took. There's a city administrator, there's a city manager. We run on what's called a weak mayor strong council.
Gotcha.
The council
Gotcha.
has the power over the budget, over that. The mayor does have veto power. He does, and when you say weak, it's not meant to be insulting.
I understand.
It's just,
no, I understand. It's the balance of power.
It's a term that's used in the vernacular.
Yeah.
So, and then you have an administrative city. So all of the day-to-day functions that, when a city was 800 people, one guy could go in there and he could run the books and he could do it. But now you talk a city that's 9,700 people with the, and we're running about a $9.2 million budget this year. It takes somebody with a little bit of professional training, some knowledge and a little bit of everything. Like, for example, when I took my master's, I took what was called an administrative course.
Right.
And it had a little bit of building. It had a little bit of finance. It had a little bit of managerial. It had a little bit of everything because they wanted you to be well-rounded in that. And so,
And you definitely have very good personal skills, or you come off very personable. I guess that's the word. Is that probably because when I met you at the TV station before, I mean, you and your wife were, pleasant, interesting, and I mean, I could have, once the camera was up, I could have talked to you for even longer.
Well, we're not, you look at our backgrounds. I mean, my dad was an 8th grade educated plumber.
Wow.
I mean, he went in on Normandy Beach. I mean, he's a pretty common guy. My wife's there's 7 kids in her family. Her maiden name's Wozniewski. They're a big, happy Polish family. I mean, but they didn't grow up with a silver spoon or anything.
Right.
And if you look at those 7 kids, every one of them has a college degree. 4 of them have masters.
Wow.
So and nobody paid for their college. They did this all on their own. You look at Kathy and I, we did it the same way. But it just comes down to if you're willing to put the work in, if you apply for it, how bad do you want the goal?
Right.
And it will pay off. I mean, I'm very fortunate to have the job I have. I'm very happy with what I do. I know that every day I go to work, I'm changing things, I hope, for the better.
Yeah.
And it seems to be agreed because the council hasn't fired me yet. So somebody must agree that things are going good. So,
And isn't it nice to not be a political appointee or a political where you have to work the politics? I mean, you got to work the politics of interacting with the people that you have to work with. And I don't know if I would call that politics. I would more call it just being personable or having a good rapport with everybody.
Well, it's interacting with your personal skills. And I try and tell people that quite often. I'm not an elected official. I'm an appointed official. I'm not really a bureaucrat either.
Oh yeah, appointed by the board, so to speak.
Well, right. I'm hired by the council.
Right.
And the council seats me, and the council can take my position from me if they feel they need to. And I hope they don't feel they need to at any time, because personally I would find that, just that I had failed in something, and it's not my personality to do that. I'm just not. It's like I told you, I'm very open about myself. I lost my parents by the time I was 14. Now, you could throw in the towel and say, oh, poor pity me, and just, but you could keep going on and try and do what you can. So I chose the latter, and, here we are.
Yeah. So you said that your dad, if I heard you right, 8th grade educated plumber, and he did what in Normandy?
Well, he went in on the 12th wave in Normandy. He went in on Utah Beach.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, what do you know about that situation?
My dad really never talked much about it, other than, he did say that it was probably the single most time that he was really frightened was when they were in the landing craft, because they could hear it so much, but they couldn't really see too much, and they knew the enormity of what they were doing. I mean, none of these guys were generals, or they weren't, and I don't think any of them were died in the wool, born to be heroes. They were just
Right.
guys that were doing what they were supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God they did, but you know, that particular moment, and you know, it happened on the other side of the world too. You look at the Marines that went in on the beaches in the South Pacific. You look at the sacrifice they made. All you got to do is go down to the Dells, and you can stand right next to the landing craft, the ducks and stuff that they used back then.
Wow.
So, you know, it is, and you know, I was proud that my brother served in the Navy during Vietnam, and I served what they called the Cold War, which never understood that term. Because what I did was work on nuclear ballistic missile submarines, and they were pretty hot, so, you know.
I remember looking at some of the old footage of some of the warnings about if a nuclear something happened and whatever else. Fortunately, you know, I wasn't in school at that time, so I got a chance to look at, you know, you look at the YouTube and kind of see what that was. What was it like to grow up? Because how old were you during the Cold, you know, the Cold War, that whatever time period that?
I'm 58. I was born in 1961. We exploded the first nuclear weapon in, 1945?
Yeah.
So things really started to heat up in the 50s. You know, we invented hydrogen weapons then that were even larger, and then the arms race is what they started. So when I was in my 70s, basically going through junior high and high school, that was the Nixon administration, that was the SALT talks, the strategic arm limitation talks. It was also the era of, well, they wanted to kind of try and call it détente, but you know, when I went into the military, Ronald Reagan was elected shortly after Jimmy Carter's. It was 1979 I graduated. And so I served for 6 years under Reagan. And Ronald Reagan was kind of a no-joke president. He really pushed the pedal to the metal. I mean, he really flexed the arm against us. So he basically spent him out of business.
Right.
But I was in the European theater at that time, and I was working at a nuclear ballistic missile submarine base in Holyloch, Scotland. So yeah, I was, you know, you're 23 and you're having a good time, and you're living your life, and you don't think about, you know, okay, you're a nanosecond from being being gone. But so, you know,
golly,
but it was fun. It was neat. I love traveling Europe.
I can imagine.
Europe was amazing, and it gave me a chance. You know, I got to go to Utah Beach. I got to see where my father was. I got to experience some of the places he was. I went through where the Battle of Bulge was fought. You know, and I've always been very fascinated by World War II's history, how the Nazis rose. You know, you look at. You know, I know it's easy to look back and say, how could you let something that evil happen? But in the time, this is kind of interesting because my wife's father was in Poland. And they left like 8 months before Hitler invaded.
Darn it.
He was just a child at the time, but you know, they had gone over to visit relatives. He grew up in Chicago, and they saw the political climate changing, and they decided to get out. And it's probably a good thing they did. But you know, it's just what it was. And then you know, my brother served on a oiler off the coast of Vietnam, servicing aircraft carriers, and you know, that was a pretty turbulent time for us too. You know, there was a lot of unrest in the country, and I think a lot of people that look back at their actions at the time probably would take them back because.
I once said this, and one day I'm going to end up doing an episode of my show where I can lay it out a lot more plainly. But this is what I said to somebody one day. I just kind of was thinking about it, that term, thank you for your service, whoever in the Bush administration who sort of made that a widespread term, and the PR that went with it, that was one of the most brilliant moves politically for that administration to do, because they learned the lesson of Vietnam. Because Vietnam, I don't know how long it lasted, but it wasn't as long as the current, you know,
the conflict we're in now.
The Afghanistan and Iraq, those lasted way longer. And I was thinking, like, the only way you can do that is if the people are not upset, and people were upset during the Vietnam time. And
we've been in the Middle East since the early 90s. I mean, that's a long time. I mean, that's a long time.
Yeah, I mean,
But unfortunately, the unrest is not stopping over there, and I guess when you serve, and a lot of people go, well, and it's funny because our particular president is very controversial in some
you're talking about our
subjects.
current president right now. Yeah.
And he does spark up some fiery conversations between people.
Oh, of
and they
course,
go,
yeah.
well, how can you serve a guy like that? I said, well, I tell you, when you're in the military, you're not serving the president
Right.
or the Congress or the Senate. I mean, you got to take orders from them, sure, but you took an oath to the Constitution.
Right.
That's what you're defending, and that's there's the preamble to it right there. I mean,
Yeah.
so.
Now, what I'm going to ask you right now is some parallels from your life to my life, only because I remember my first real interaction with presidents. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. I was
Reagan
in high
was the
school.
first one I was on.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
For.
Right. Well, see, I was gonna back you up to when Nixon resigned. You said you were in middle school.
Yeah.
Do you have any memories of the Nixon
My dad
resignation?
was a staunch Nixon supporter. Very
Tell me,
staunch.
what was, okay, so you weren't 14 yet,
No.
right? So, what was it? Okay, so Nixon resigning, that's a big moment in the country.
It was.
What was it like in the Gorius household?
Well, my dad was shocked that my dad still doesn't think he did anything wrong, and I'm not here to say he did or didn't. I mean, the evidence in the history shows that
Right.
something went on in Watergate, and it was a little deeper. And there's
Something happened that caused the country to be in a scenario.
well, some tape showed up with 18 minutes missing on it. I kind of rang a few bells, and people said, "Oh, wait a minute, maybe there is something going on." So, but yeah, my dad was not happy to see Richard Nixon go.
So he was a Nixon supporter.
Yeah.
And so in your household, what was it? What was he thinking? Because I know that I remember looking at the Nixon speech, where he, whatever, where he resigned or whatever, and said what he said. So, I think, let me see, when Kennedy was assassinated, I remember my dad telling me that his father, my grandfather, cried when he, so that's a big moment in the country. Nixon resigning, what was going on in the household?
Well,
if you could remember it.
It was pretty alarming in the country. I mean, I was still pretty young. I was probably 12 or 13 years old at the time. So, in our household, we were blue class middle. My dad was a plumber. He had a private business, but and no offense to plumbers today, but my dad did not make the money they did. So, it was a different world back then. So, but it was pretty somber. I mean, it's like you referred to Kennedy. Whether you were a supporter of Kennedy or you weren't, he was the president of the United States. He was assassinated. That's a brutal thing that happened to a country. Assassination's not governance. That's anarchy.
Yeah.
And when Nixon resigned, a lot of people looked at it. I think that he did it for the betterment of the country, because I think an impeachment, a trial, that whole public thing would have been hard on the country at the time. And you got to remember, in the 70s, it wasn't all guns and roses, either. It was, there were strikes, there were layoffs, there was the oil crisis. I mean, the oil embargo.
Oil crisis?
Yeah. Well, we had oil shortages. We had people in lines. I mean, you ever?
Oh, wait a minute. I remember.
You ever see the movie Miracle on Ice?
No, I will put that on my list. Miracle on Ice.
Yeah, it's about the 1980 hockey team that beat the Soviets. You've never seen that?
No, what happened?
You gotta see that.
Talk to me a little. I mean, I'm not worried about the spoilers, but talk to me. What was so significant about that?
Well, the Soviet Union was a machine. They won gold medal after gold medal.
Right.
I can't remember Herb's last name, but he was a coach, and I think he was coach at Minnesota. But anyway, the Olympic committee hired him, and he told them basically, you stay out of my hair, I'm going to put the team together that can beat him. And he went out and he got all sorts of he got guys that couldn't stand each other on the ice in college, and he got them to work together. And he was hard. He was hard nosed. You got to see the movie.
I'm gonna check it out.
This was in 1980, and one of the scenes. The reason I reference it is one of the scenes in there. They're in line, waiting to get gas.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're literally changing the sign for how much gas costs as people are waiting. It was a tough time.
Yep.
That's I went in the service in 1980.
At that time period.
Yeah.
See, Rita Byers, she was the paralegal at the time that I was working at Fort McCoy when I first started coming to Fort McCoy in 97, 98. So that's when I first started my relationship with Fort McCoy in 98, right? And so Rita, I remember her telling me a story about, I guess, that time period that they had to run for a whole month or a certain period of time with just one police car. They strategically put the police cars around the post and just kind of had one roving because everybody had to deal with that gas shortage or whatever. So that must be what time period.
And it was a time where it was several years after the resignation. But
of course, yeah.
It was Carter administration. Things were tough. We had lost we had the debacle where we lost the troops that we sent in on the Iran hostage crisis. We lost those in the desert. And something as simple as a hockey game lifted the nation. Because
I got you, yes.
They beat the Soviets, and then 2 days later they beat the Czechs for the gold medal. And they did it in Lake Placid, of all places. They did it on home surface. So it was, Al Michaels, you can hear him screaming on tape. He says, "Do you believe in miracles?" Because
Miracle on Ice.
Miracle on Ice.
I'm gonna have to check it out. I'm glad. I love getting movie recommendations. I have a buddy of mine at work, and we decided we were gonna start a TV show / movie discussion podcast where we watch certain things and just kind of talk about it or whatever. So
it's a good movie.
That's a good one. So then, now in the 80s, so now you're in the military. You said the Navy, right?
Yeah, I did a year on a destroyer, about a year and a half on a destroyer out of Charleston, South Carolina. Then I got my dive quals, and then I was stationed on board the USS Hunley, and we transited to Holy Loch, Scotland. I worked over there.
Doggone it. I mean, I haven't personally been outside of the country. What growing up in where for you?
Animals, Iowa.
You were growing up in Iowa. And so, was that your first time ever leaving the country?
Oh yeah.
So what
my
was
first
that?
trip out of the country was we did rough trade in Cuba. We went down to Gitmo before anybody knew what Gitmo was.
Doggone it.
Yeah, it wasn't anything. I guess it's really built up now. I guess because of the detention centers and stuff.
Yeah.
But when we were down there was much there.
Wow. So what was it like to be in your early 20s? Overseas, like you said, having a good time.
Well, it was pretty cool. It was. I mean, it's a whole different culture to begin with.
Really?
Well, we lived in Scotland, so they talk different than you did to begin with, and it's all weird. So, but the culture was, and Europe is old.
Okay.
I mean, the United States is
very
a
young
country. So when I talk about I mean architecture and going through it and culture, and it's just a whole different. And I was pretty young.
Yeah. So do you think that like looking back on that, did you really soak up that experience, or you did soak it up? So in other words, you knew you were a presence. You were present in your mind enough to know, hey, I'm here for a little while. Let me enjoy what I am. Yeah.
My 21st birthday, my friend and I, John Babel, and I backpacked through Europe on a Eurail pass.
Oh wow.
And we left Liverpool and we came in Calais and. We went to the first place we went to, like I said, we went to Normandy because I wanted to see what Dad went in on. And then we just kind of, a Eurail pass was $300 at the time. You could get on and off anywhere you wanted to and just kind of cruise. And we stayed at youth hostels and just kind of backpacked. And we went to Berchtesgaden, Auschwitz, which was unbelievably sobering.
Really?
Yeah. Horrible place.
Did they keep at that time? Obviously, they kept it up as a memorial. Soda.
Well, yeah, it was a reminder. You'd have to see it. It was a testimony to how inhumane man can be.
Yeah.
It was incredible, but saw some beautiful things too.
Yeah.
Saw the Eiffel Tower. Saw the Louvre.
Gotcha.
So the Arc de Triomphe. Got to go a lot of different places. So.
And now, forgive me for this silly question here. What in the Reagan administration stood out to you at that time? Because that's, now at this point in my life, I'm in my junior high or whatever. Because Clinton was the president that I remember, and it was his whole blue dress scenario. That's what I remember. I was in middle school. I was in high school at that time.
What really stood out with me was it was a renewed sense of patriotism with the country. I mean, Reagan even came in, and that's when we started wearing the blues, the sailors wore. That's when the Marines went back to the really crisp uniforms. You traveled in uniform. You didn't travel in civilian clothes.
And that's interesting. Yeah.
It was a lot about patriotism, and Reagan was just kind of a no BS president. His foreign policy was what it was. He says, he didn't care for the Soviet Union. He thought that they were oppressive, and he didn't like the way they were basically kind of always rattling sabers at the edge of Europe.
Yeah.
So he pushed back, and he worked well with NATO. And I don't know, it was an interesting time. Margaret Thatcher was in office in the UK,
Right.
and they seemed to hit it off, and they seemed to work well together. And they called him a cowboy actor. I think he was a lot better diplomat than people give him credit for.
Yeah, I got you on that.
I don't know, he's pretty smart. He put Henry Kissinger in as Secretary of State. Kissinger wasn't a naturalized American, so he could never be president, so there was no political rivalry.
Very interesting strategic move there. That's pretty good.
Kissinger was, and people liked Kissinger, didn't like Kissinger, but he seemed to be, at that time, he was what the world needed for the Secretary of State.
Right.
And that, I was a pro-Reagan administration, but I worked for the guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was my commander-in-chief.
Right.
And, I did see what a lot of his policies did overseas, and it did instill pride in the military. That a lot of people did, and if you look, the numbers started to increase. And he reinstated the draft. He never used it, but he reinstated it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because I was one of the first generation that have to go back to signing up for the draft. Wow. You had to register. You didn't.
Yeah, you're talking about the what was that?
Selective Service.
Selective Service. So that is fascinating. Because the Vietnam time period.
They had the draft.
That was a very that time period. Kind of, and as the Vietnam War kind of, as we pulled out or whatever,
right.
The mood of the country was kind of rough, and the military, was kind of looked at in a negative way. A lot of guys could, what I'm saying. So I talking with those guys, at the VA, and I just went to a festival with a bunch of vets, and I got a chance to talk to them about some of their time period in Vietnam, and it's a rough scenario that they had when they came back. It was kind of a rough one. So that is interesting. Yeah.
My brother-in-law was a radioman in Nam with the Marine Corps, and he got the letter to show up. So he went, and this was in Iowa. He went to Iowa. He was in a room swearing in for the Army, and a drill instructor came in, Marine Corps, and he says, "I need 4."
Wow.
And Larry was the third guy he pointed at, and that's how he ended up in the Marine Corps. He said he doesn't talk ever about his experience over there. I don't think it was really great, but he did say that he remembers they flew into San Francisco coming home, and they walk out and somebody spit on him.
Oh.
And he thought,
doggone it. It's such a. I'm telling you that thank you for your service thing. It really and I, that was it made it so that the PR they could do more stuff behind the scenes. I guess to keep wars going.
Well, it took the negative stigma away from the military, and young people, and not just men, but bright young women, and a lot of people, and women were pushing the boundaries too. They wanted to be pilots. They wanted to be divers. And we started. They didn't quite do it when I was in, but they were starting to relax, like the ship regulations. Certain non-combatant ships could have females on, which they'd always had officers of some kind, but I find it funny because Kathy and I talk a lot about history and stuff like that, and I tell her, I said, well, you realize that as a nurse, you were automatically an officer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I said there was a reason for that, because they didn't need some smart young sergeant telling you what to do, because you had to be able to flash the bars and say, look, you're talking to an officer.
Exactly.
And it's the way the military works.
Yeah.
It's how
Yeah, I'm such a I'm such a my whole brain just functions,
Well, I think
government.
anybody who's been in or around
Yeah.
the military, they always carry a piece of that with them.
Seriously.
And you can see it. I mean, I mentioned earlier when we were talking that I work with the Lions and I work out at the food pantry.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of the young people that come from the Challenge Academy come out there and volunteer.
Right.
Well, I don't know if they volunteer, if they're assigned there, but anyway, they work out there, and you can get the whole, it's always sir, ma'am, thank
Yes.
you,
Yes.
it's a whole different, it's just a whole different era. I mean, it's refreshing to see.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need anybody to call me sir. I'm okay with that. I'm pretty confident with who I am and stuff like that, but I do like to see respect. I tell this story sometimes to people. I said there was a time once where, and this was long before I was married, I was walking into a department store, and I opened the door, and there was a lady behind me, so I stood back, and I let her walk in, and she looked at me, she goes, "You don't have to do that for me." And I thought, it's just
Yeah.
a gesture of respect.
Right,
it's
right.
the way my mom and dad taught me,
Mm-hmm.
So, but, it's just, and everybody's entitled to their opinion. That's why we went to war. That's why
Yes,
we took,
yes.
freedom of speech, freedom of religion. I mean, we hold these truths to be self-evident.
So, like I said, for me, I went into the military during the time when President Clinton, he was dealing with his issues of impeachment and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
During that time period, were you were out by that time?
Oh yeah,
right?
that was the '90s. I was
Yeah.
well out of the military. But
So at that point in your life, what were you doing at that time? And I hate to use those milestones, those.
When Clinton was in, I think I was working at a paint store. I think.
Really?
Yeah, I remember right. Part of my illustrious career. That was a rough time. I mean, whatever you think about what happened or what you thought about Clinton or the administration. Well, interesting segment here. My wife's uncle was the head of the Forest Administration under Clinton. He called.
Wow.
He called Dorothy, my mom's wife, from Air Force One. They were going over New Mexico.
You didn't say your mom's wife, did you?
Or I must have my wife's mom.
Your wife's mom. Okay.
Transposed that. Sorry.
Not that your mom can't have a wife. Not that there's anything wrong with it. But it messed me up for a second. I just wanted to make sure I was hearing it right.
No, it's my wife's mother.
Your wife's
Dorothy,
mother.
but it's her younger brother.
Yeah.
Called him from Air Force One. They were going over New Mexico because there was a series of wildfires down there at the time, and he was the head of the Forest Division. And it was funny because she goes, Dorothy's so funny. She's just this. She's gone now, but she was just this beautiful, cute little Polish old woman. She goes, "What are you having for lunch?" And Mike goes, "We're having tacos." She goes, "Are you guys having a beer?" That's what the President of the United States and Dorothy wants to know if they're having a beer. I love that story. But that's you look at that too, and that's during the Clinton administration. I think what actions were taken and what actions weren't. I think he brought a bit of. It was a shameful time for the office. It's the office of the presidency,
Yeah.
and I see some of that now too. And I don't like to get political, and I don't like to talk about it. I don't think it's right for my position. I just think that if you're gonna be in the position, and you're gonna represent, much like I feel I do here, you have to be of a certain demeanor. You have to be of a certain professional stature.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you can't have fun, you can't laugh, you can't joke around. It doesn't mean you can't put on a pair of blue jeans. Up until this year, I had a Harley Davidson. I rode it all the time. I finally sold it because 3 people with cell phones tried to kill me last year,
my
and
God.
I just decided I was done.
Doggone it. Thank God
Well,
that it didn't work out the way that
3 times I looked up and there they are, and I'm going,
my
they're
goodness.
that far away from my front tire, and I just finally said I'm going to sell it. I'm done. I'll go buy a Jeep or something like that.
metal all around you.
So far, all I managed to buy is a new kitchen set for my wife. So, it was a good trade.
It was a good trade. And by the way, let's definitely talk about your wife for a few seconds here, because she, my impression of your wife is twofold. Number one, that you probably don't have a bigger supporter than her. She's probably the biggest supporter, and she knows how to read you.
Oh yeah.
It seems.
Oh, yeah.
So, talk to me about your wife. I mean,
Kathy's an amazing woman.
Mm-hmm.
She's retired now, but she's a registered nurse.
Yeah.
She's the oldest of 7 kids, so she kind of had to be.
Mom Junior.
Yeah, Mom Junior. Yeah, and she's an incredible grandmother. We have 2 grandkids. She's incredible to them. She's love of my life. She's brilliant. She's beautiful. There's nothing I can't talk about her with, and we talk about a lot of things that nobody else needs to know about, especially with the city and things like that. And I know that I've got a confidential ear there, and I've got a sound board that comes back, and she's not afraid to tell me that you're being a real butthead about this. You got to change your attitude on this one because you're being stubborn. And I am a Gorius. My father was of German heritage, and I'm also a Dolan. So I tend to be a little bit more like my mom. I like to laugh. I like to joke around. I like to be a little bit more of the Irishman. But I've got a stubborn streak in me, and I'm free to admit it. And Kathy's good at regulating that. She's good at being my guiding board. She's good at doing that. And yeah, I couldn't do this job without her.
Really?
No way.
That's pretty powerful. That's a powerful sentiment because, when I think about my wife, I feel the same way that I would not have been able to do all the traveling that I did because I know that my wife is taking care of the children. Mm-hmm. She's forward thinking about a lot of stuff.
Let's go back to that too.
Yeah,
people talk about careers and about difficult things. Mm-hmm. Raising children is up there on the top of the
Absolutely.
list. I mean, I'd probably take under fire sometimes for some of the go-arounds you can have with your kids, And we were all there. We were all 18, and we all know that we knew everything at that point. There was nothing anybody could tell you. And then you fast forward. And how many times have you caught yourself saying, "Oh my God, that was my dad talking just now"? Because I said the same thing he said, and I sound just like him. The same thing I said at 17. I'll never be like that. And you turn around, oh my God, that's him.
It's hilarious. I hear what you're saying. That's a good point.
But I think it's good. I mean, I think it shows that we do learn from our parents.
Oh yeah,
and we do. Parents are incredible people.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember at all looking in the mirror and seeing not the younger version of you anymore? Do you remember that moment?
Oh, I don't know if I remember that moment.
Okay.
I've always just I've accepted the fact that I'm aging. There's days where you're a little more sore and stuff like that. I was in a pretty bad accident when I was younger.
Oh, really?
So I always look at life.
In your 20s or 30s?
Yeah, I was 24 years old.
24.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this happened in the military. This is.
I was back on leave. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was back on leave. I had my brother's Harley Davidson. I was out on a ride. We were going into town. No alcohol involved. This is the night of my 24th birthday, the very night of it. And we were going into town. We were going to park the bikes at a friend's house, and we were going to go do some bar hopping, and then we were just going to stay in town.
Yeah.
Come around the corner, there were 2 trucks drag racing, and my buddy Andy went to the left, and I went to the right. I didn't fare so well. So.
Darn it.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, broke my right leg, my right arm, a couple ribs on my left side, my nose, and I flatlined going into town, and I flatlined on the table when they got me to the hospital. It was a rough night.
Oh my goodness. Were you in your home, like home wherever your home was?
Yeah, it's just outside Animal Asylum.
Oh my goodness. So fortunately your family was around.
Yeah.
I guess when.
Well, pretty much. Yeah, my brother lived in Cedar Rapids, about 30 miles away. My sister Rhonda was right there. My sister Glenda was living in the area too. So.
Wow. How long did it take to sort of get back on? Because now you're home on leave and you got to supposedly report back and.
Well, they did that for me. They contacted the ship. They knew they got. They had my wallet, my credentials. They saw my military ID. They traced it down.
Oh, you're talking about the hospital deal?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
They got I was in a coma for about a week and a half.
Oh, my Lord.
Then I was in traction for, I think it was like a month and a half. And there was the rehab, learn how to walk again.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a tough night.
What an ordeal. Night. That's a tough 6 months. At least.
About a year.
My goodness. So does that contribute to one of the reasons why you were coming to the VA?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's part of the reason I was awarded a disability.
Wow. How's your relationship with the Tomah VA when
Pretty good. I get along with Vicki Brown really good. I think she's a pretty amazing lady. All of her support staff were very helpful. I mean, we just did, as you know, we just did a huge project with Marv Simkowski and his wife to bring up the Jason Simkowski Memorial Golf Course.
Doggone it. Wow.
That was a lot of fun to work on that project. It was really rewarding. Marv's a really great guy. His wife's a really nice lady. It was rewarding to work with them. It's been good to work with them. I've got a plaque up there they gave me for an award because they asked me to speak on a Veterans Day once. On Memorial Day it was, spoke on Memorial Day. I get along with, work with pretty much all the military organizations. I'm a DAV member, Disabled American Veterans.
Really? Yeah.
VFW, they finally accepted people from the Cold War. So
yes, I just heard right there.
We finally got in. And I've been an American Legion member pretty much most of my life. So I work with those. I work close with, through this job, Judge Tom Flock, who's our municipal judge, and he's also very involved in the Vets Memorial down here.
Oh, gotcha.
As a matter of fact, this Saturday will be, they'll basically, the organization that was founded to raise the money and build that, they're completed now, and they're going to just basically be turning it back over to the city and let us take care of it from now on. And we can't thank them enough. It's a beautiful memorial. It's a good tribute to a lot of people in Tomah. It's a nice piece. I mean, it's beautiful sitting there by the lemon wire. It's just
that's fascinating.
Yeah, and Tom's a really good guy, and he's ex-Navy, so we get along pretty good.
Man, and when I was driving home with my wife, and I mentioned that we were going to be doing our interview, I thought that she asked me to ask you something, but I can't remember what it was. But I do know that I can say what I'm about to tell you right now. I can say that I can pretty much speak for her or on behalf of my family, and I know that she would agree that we thank you. I don't know how you were involved, but thank you for setting up the Montessori school over here. How did that come?
I didn't have.
You didn't have anything to do with it.
Didn't have much to do with that at all.
That's the school. So is the school board? What is this?
This is it. When your wife remembers the question, tell her to give me a call.
Yes, I got you. I got the card. But so what's the story behind the Montessori school, based on what you know about it?
Well, I don't know that much about it. I mean, we don't have kids in school here. I know it's a hugely popular, very, very, it's well-grounded. I guess, it's unique. I mean, I've not seen anything like that in any of the other cities that I've been.
Right, never. I mean, not that I know of. I mean, so it's like, that's what's interesting about Tomah is that somebody had that idea and somebody said, you know what, let's run with it. I mean, do you get that sometimes that people are coming here and say, look, I got an idea, and and then the power of your office or the power of the city gets behind it?
Well, I've got a Parks and Rec director that's pretty hard on my budget. I mean, Joe is always thinking about something. I was in office maybe, I bet less than a week.
Okay.
Or right at a week. And Joe Protz, who's our director of Parks and Rec, he came in, he says, hey, I got something I want to run past you. And I said, well, what's that? And he says, well, we have an ice arena. And I said, yeah. I said, I've been out there, seen it. I said, it's nice. He goes, well, we work with Tomah Youth Hockey on it. And I go, yeah, okay. And he goes, well, we've always thought about it really, really could use a warming area and a concession stand to make it a little bit more usable. And I said, well, yeah. I said, I don't see where that's a bad idea. He goes, well, you got to understand, when we built the ice arena, it was a pretty big debate. I guess it was packed upstairs, and a lot of people were for, a lot of people were against, and it got built. And, so, because they had the Mose Lamb outdoor rink at the time.
Right, okay.
So, so they got it built. And Joe said, well, what do you think? I said, well, I think this is doable. I think we can do this. So I started looking around. I got a hold of a couple architects that I had researched through, and firms, and I talked to them, and I kind of spitballing prices, and the number $750,000 kept popping up real regular. And So I told Joe, I said, let's take it to the council. I said, we took it to the Parks and Rec Board first, and the Parks and Rec Board liked the idea, so they said, yeah, sure, take it to the council. So we took it to the council in closed session, and everybody was positive that it was just going to get shot right down. Because nobody was going to...
You mean everybody who was not in the meeting?
Right.
Gotcha.
They all thought, so there's no way anybody's going to okay $750,000. And I would agree with them. I would not take $750,000 out of the general fund. I said, let's do it with room tax.
Room tax?
Yeah.
What's room tax?
Well, you pay a tax on every time you go into a hotel room.
Oh.
And that tax is, part of that is paid back to the city.
Mm-hmm.
And it's specifically designed for tourism and tourism related, okay? I got an ice arena. It brings in lots of people that stay in hotel rooms.
Mm-hmm.
So we did it that way. And
wow.
we're only a couple years out from having that paid for.
Wow.
And
look at that.
we didn't have to raise the tax levy to do it. We didn't have to go in. We did the same thing with the DNR building up here when we made the chamber. We used room tax for that. And that's, turned around now. So, yeah, it's creative ways to use funding.
Yeah.
It's monies that are going to be collected anyway. And it's monies that are going to either sit in coffers and collect dust, or it's monies that you can reinvest, which you should be doing.
Right.
I mean,
right.
if I were the hoteliers and I was paying room tax and nothing was getting done, I'd be screaming bloody murder. I'd want to at least see something being done with it.
Or the removal of it if it's not going to be used.
Or lower it, yeah.
Yeah, because then it makes their prices a little bit more attractive.
Right. And I think our hotels do pretty good around here. I mean, I know they do. I mean, I sit on the CBB board. I sit on every board. My wife will tell you that. She goes, "You're gone, wow." Because I told her tonight what I was going to be doing, and she says, "Okay, but just don't make it real late."
Yeah, and listen, feel free at any time. I could sit here, sir.
I know.
You listen. As long as I've been looking so forward to this.
Well, we can always
moment.
do more of another time.
Listen, and matter of fact, this is a good way to start bringing it to a close. Okay, I got three things, and then we'll start to close. Okay, so here's the first question: is what's up, sir, with your monthly the thing that you do monthly? I think
the paper.
The paper. What is that, and what is the purpose of that? Like I found it fascinating when I saw it.
First of all, I apologize to everybody.
Don't apologize.
No, because my wife has been on me that I need to write it more often, and I get busy every now and then. Like recently, it's been with the budget, So
why would you have to write it every month? Why not?
Well, I try and write it about it. I'm trying to write about every quarter.
Okay. Okay. This is the reason why I'm asking. Okay. Why not this format rather than writing it?
Well, I don't have a problem with doing it. The reason I started doing it, writing, is I've always done it. I like to write.
Okay.
I find that it gets out in circulation pretty good.
Yeah.
My wife's able to clip that out and send it to her friends. She likes to do that. And I do it because I think it's important that I talk to the people at Tomah on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And this is what we're doing. This is what our ideas are. And if you don't like them, I'm fine. And this is one thing I would like to get across here. I tell everybody this all the time. I have an open door policy. Mm-hmm. All you have to do is walk in the city hall and tell somebody you want to see the city administrator. One of those girls,
they opened it right up for me.
They'll come and get me and say, "Do you have a moment?" If I don't have a moment, I'll at least step out and tell you, "Hey, look, I don't." But I am a stickler. I don't even know where I put it. I have a plan.
No, it's right there. I see it under there. It's right there. I think that's it.
Yeah, I have a planner, and I write everything in my planner.
Yes,
sir.
And why do you use that version? Are you like not a smartphone or Outlook type person?
I've got one right here.
Right, but I mean, you don't like do the putting it into the digital planner or whatever. It's better.
One thing I found out is the batteries never run out on this.
Come on now, that's a very good point. That's a very good point.
Never have to plug it in once and open it up, and it always works. So I guess that's just the way I go with it. Okay. So
your goal initially when you started that, did somebody ask you to do it, or was that kind of something that was previously done?
No, I've always done that. Ever since I've been an administrator, I did it I did it when I was in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I did it when I worked with the county clerk. I did kind of a newsletter that was just circulated inside the county courthouse, and then I did it in Tracy, and I've done it here. It's just something I've always done.
Yeah, and so you're now the way that it's distributed is you type it up on your computer. Right, and then you'll email the document to the lacrosse something,
Oh, I send it to it goes here to the Tomah, and then the wires pick it up, basically. Lacrosse pick it up.
That's how I saw it.
And I send it to the county, too.
So when you say you send it here, you meaning you send it to the...
I send it to Steve Rundio in the press.
Steve Run, right? He's the is it the Tomah Journal?
Yeah.
He is the okay. So you send it to
and
him.
The reason I follow that format is because the Tomah Journal is our letter of publication.
Right.
It's what we vote every year. The council votes that they have to.
We got to pick one.
Yeah, and
gotcha.
that's the one. And the reason they do is by circulation within your community and stuff like that. So.
And he did so the Tomah Journal. That's a we pay for that publication. In other words, I go to the store and I pay $1 or something like that.
I think I just paid for it. It's like $57 for your subscription.
Right, and I think that's and I'm hearing that that's a good idea to do, to make do the subscription and then you get it.
Well, I wouldn't have to, because we get a copy no matter what, because we have to keep a copy.
But you're being a support for that
plus
business.
my wife wants to read it, so and she can't read the one here, so
exactly.
And I think you should support your local business as much as you can.
Yes, absolutely. And so you're saying, all right, so you you give it to Mr. Rundio. He puts it in the Tomah Journal, and then you said the wire, meaning
I've seen it on the web.
That's where I saw it.
Yeah, people. Yeah, that's where it gets on there. And the county, I try and supply it to the county. I haven't been very good about doing that. I need to get better at I just forget that I need to send it to.
Right, it's just a different email.
I just don't think of it as being that big a deal. It's just
I know what you're saying.
It's just something I'm writing, and it's just going over stuff that we've done in the city, and and it's a nice.
And plus, it probably has to. It's got to be weird to. You're talking about that stuff. It's important. Some people are interested, and some people are not.
Right. It is a nice way to give credit to people, though, too, that throughout the community that work really hard and do things, organizations that do stuff. I mean, look at this summer with the downtown Thursday nights.
Right.
So many volunteers, so many people that, nobody knows just how many people put so much labor into that behind the scenes.
Right. Yeah. So that's I really appreciated, like, that's when I saw that on the web, I said, you know what, I gotta get in touch with Mr. Gorius. I got to, because it was well written, and I appreciated seeing that. All right, so then my second closing question is...
That's my wife asking me if I'm okay.
Oh, really? Can you, look, you want to call her?
Nope, I just said yes, home soon.
So, okay, all right, so then the last two questions. One of them is, how busy of a day do you, like, when you're in this office, is it constantly somebody coming in there, or is it like kind of quiet, and then
no, it's a mix. It just depends on where you're at, especially in the month. When we get around the council dates, it's busy.
Yeah,
trying to get the packets and the reports done, things like that. There are people that come in. Mostly the people that come in are my department heads talk to me about situations or problems they got, or I'll go out to them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of times where we'll just get together. There'll be something that'll come up, and we just want to sit down and go through it.
Yeah.
We have a public works conference room over there where we can bring up a big screen that's got our GIS map, our ARC reader, so we can bring it up and overlay all the infrastructure, all the stuff that we need to look at and see, if there is a problem or what we want to do. Maybe we're looking at somebody petition the annex, like Ginsburg's did with the property down there when the hospital built. So no. It's a mix. You're always a little bit busy. A lot of answering emails and stuff like that from people that send in stuff. Phone calls, get a lot of those. And then there's just the day-to-day working, bills that have to be signed.
Yes.
The book's got to be kept. The thing's got to keep moving. Yeah, it's never a double. I come in about 7:30. I leave about 4:30.
Yeah. And
like tonight, I'll be out of here about 6 o'clock.
Yes,
my wife's just. I told her I'd be late today. So
I'm so grateful, and tell your wife thank you. Matter of fact, I'm saying it for the tape. Thank you so very much.
Oh, it's no big deal. I like doing it.
So my last question is, what is Roger Gorius's favorite foods to eat? I know it sounds like a silly question.
Favorite foods to eat?
Yes.
I love my wife's chili. She makes the best meatloaf you've ever had in your life. I like my absolute favorite food. I love seafood.
Really?
I love seafood.
Doggone it.
Shrimp, scallops, anything like that. when we were in the service, we used to have a couple little places we go diving, and the scallops were in about 40 feet of water, and you could get fresh scallops, and it was just great, cold water scallops.
Oh my goodness!
So I've always liked seafood quite a bit. I like lasagna. I like lots of stuff.
Well, listen, I'm very grateful. The Mad Ellipsis show is a show that my goal has been to try to put out a podcast episode every Thursday, mm-hmm. and that's mainly audio with a little graphic, and then the video and other stuff, other mediums, or little clips or whatever. I put those out whenever I can. So I'm looking forward to grabbing this and doing a little bit of editing and maybe putting out a short clip and another short clip, and then the block interview. What would you between now, we're gonna obviously try to set this up to do this again, but what would you like for everybody to know, I guess my audience and then other people because my Facebook friends have gone up over the past month. Ever since I did my little comedy thing, I 200 people started getting contact me. So I'm starting to get an audience now, finally.
Well, I think all I'd really want anybody to know is that we're not inapproachable, and
yes.
that if you've got ideas or comments, we've got a website that you can submit them to. We've got us,
which is TomahOnline.com, right? Yep. TomahOnline.com is the website. Go ahead, continue.
So if you went on your web browser and typed in City of Tomah, it'll come up.
Boom. Yes.
And we just want people to know that we're trying to work as hard as we can to keep the scale. There's a lot of obstacles. I mean, Madison's got expenditure restraints on us. I mean, you don't want to raise taxes too high, but everything costs more to do tomorrow than it did the day before because prices go up and things change. So we're trying our darndest. And Tomah is in flux. It is a growing city, which is good.
Yes.
But it also faces its challenges because you have to keep up with that growth. So, just ask a little patience, and we're trying to do the best we can. 9,700
people. We don't want 10,000 just yet, right?
Well, I'd love to be a city of 10,000 someday, but I would really like the breathing room to catch up with it and do a few things before I get those mandates put on us.
Right, exactly. So that's what we're trying to work it out. We're trying to work that out. When I do as I talk to people, say, look, don't bring everybody here. Just wait until the 10-year vision gets done, and then
tell your friends to visit. We love visitors.
Pay the room tax.
Or just stay with your friend, right. And don't pay the room tax.
Right. If we just come visit Tomah, please.
Yeah, I think you should. I mean,
yes.
And what people don't realize is where we're located. I mean, the Cooley region is absolutely gorgeous. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you want to do some driving in some really rural areas that are beautiful, it is gorgeous here.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, Roger Gorius, City Administrator of Tomah, the city of Tomah. I'm so grateful.
No problem.
Thank you so very much. Yep. Let me get a little shot here. Oh my goodness. I'm so grateful for the time that you gave me.
Not a problem.
Doggone it. How did you feel doing this? I mean, I'm sure you've done this before.
It's casual.
Yeah. I love a relaxed, casual scenario.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed that video, the interview with Roger Gorius. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, TomahRadio.com. You also are aware of M3dots.com. And as Roger mentioned while he was talking, the city of Tomah, if you type into the web browser, City of Tomah, the website will pop up, and all the services that Tomah has to offer are available to you. Information about it, the departments, department heads, you got wonderful people here. Tomah is a wonderful place to live. And Tomah's been good to me. It's been good to my family. And this is my opportunity to bring the best of Tomah to you all through TomahRadio.com. So thank you very much for spending some time with me today. And I look forward to catching up with you next time. Okay?
You are now listening to an M3dots.com free download. Thank you for your support. You
are now listening to nm3dots.com. Free download. Thank you for your support.
This is not a secret, tight hole, like no spiteful, lack of insightful, not no rival. Society, hold no eye, it's irony. Cattle on 1,000, my propriety. More than the zeitgeist, hands down decidedly. The king of Babylon ate pine, then opined of me. Some of the council said finally. I'm patient, think refinery. Think about the peace, be still, voice, real choice, third seal, big reveal it all. Lay hands, heal them all. Cast the net, get them all. Highways, byways, meet them all. Banquet, invite, met them all. Set them all down, break bread ass. If it was the last, I just makes you crash. But let's not let this moment pass. Because when you grasp it, you'll remember.
When you do this, please don't do it in the frivolous ambivalence as traditionally. See what I mean? Do this in remembrance, please remember me. Please, oh please, don't do it in the frivolous ambivalence as traditionally. See what I mean? Do this in remembrance, please.
In the era of the first dot, I faced all my fears. Second dot era, time to manifest my beard. It don't grow long, but it is triumphant.